You're listening to the Otis Jiry channel.
Behind the Hill by Richard E. Harding. Performed by Otis Jiry. The large old timber cabin was tucked beneath a small hillside cliff, becoming overgrown with neglect. William's father had heard it was for sale from a friend, and that, although it needed quite a bit of repair work, was nevertheless a bargain. It was now over a year since William's little sister had disappeared from outside their home, and his parents had told him that soon they would find a new home for them all, away from the place where the memories persisted. There was still a couple of hours of daylight left as they set to unpack their belongings from the back of the station wagon, with William eager to explore. Of the 6 main rooms, the kitchen and living room were the largest. The previous owner had apparently left in a hurry, leaving the rooms as they were, to be included in the sale price. Pots and pans, crockery and cutlery in the kitchen cupboards, and a large couch, 2 armchairs, and a large dining table and chairs, together with a sideboard in the living room. The 3 bedrooms each had beds, closets, and chairs, with the remaining room empty except for a large trunk in the center and a rose-patterned curtains closed over the window. The bed to be William's was pulled into the master bedroom as it was too scary for a 9-year-old to be alone, especially on the first night, and after a quick meal they retired to bed. The long journey had worn them all out, and a peaceful night went by all too quickly, except for William, who lay awake wondering what it was like behind the hill. He couldn't get it out of his mind. As soon as it was daylight, William rushed to the window to see the rolling wooded hills that surrounded them, many miles from the nearest town. He convinced himself that his new surroundings would enable him to move on from the loss of his sister, but like his parents, he would never give up the hope that he may see her again. Soon his parents were up and preparing breakfast with the new day's welcome sunlight streaming through the dusty windows. William quickly dressed and said he was going to explore outside until the meal was ready. Instead of the traffic noise he'd been used to in the city, only the peaceful sound of birdsong could be heard, and he breathed in the sweet country air. The steep cliff behind the house looked as if it had been cut into the hillside to protect the home from the worst of the elements. William decided he would follow around the hill just a little way to the right before breakfast. He obsessively needed to know what was around and behind the hill. Although the immediate surrounding woodland had been cleared, he soon became aware the going was getting tough with tangled undergrowth beneath the increasing density of woodland trees. He mustn't be too much longer, he thought, but was determined to go a little bit further after looking back to check the way he had come. As he continued, he lost his footing and slipped down into a rocky hollow, banging his head. After a while, he regained consciousness and looked around. Everywhere was strangely different, with an ambience of surreal serenity. The woodland, rocks, and undergrowth were the same, but oddly afflicted by an additional quality he couldn't understand. But he had just bumped his head quite badly, and reached up into his hair to check the damage. No cut, with just a slight bump in evidence. William shakily found his feet and walked to the side of the hill. He didn't know it, but he was now exactly the other side of the little hill to the cabin, the place he somehow needed to know about, but didn't know why. As the ground became too steep to continue, he found himself standing at the foot of a large tree that was markedly different from the others. He needed to rest and sat down on one of the exposed tangled roots. He realized there was no longer any bird song, but instead was aware of someone calling his name. Jumping to his feet in surprise, he moved into the space between the huge trunk and the steep hillside to find he was facing what appeared to be a cave entrance. Instinctively, he moved forward as the rocky cave walls morphed into the walls of a room. Sitting there before him on a large trunk was a smiling Mary, his long-lost sister, with a rose-patterned curtained window behind her. "What are you doing here, Mary? Where are we?" "This is where you go when you die," she said. Mary's father's friend abducted, attacked, and killed her at his secret cabin in the woods. He placed her body in the trunk in the rose-patterned curtained room. A year on, he could no longer live with the guilt and horror of what he had done to his friend's daughter, and told the father of a cabin for private sale, wanting the family to eventually find Mary's body in the locked trunk. When the family left for the cabin, he killed himself. On the journey to the cabin, the closer William became to Mary's body, the greater was his sixth sense that he must explore behind the hill without knowing why. His sleepless night caused by his close proximity to Mary in the next room. He died after hitting his head, which allowed Mary to communicate with him through the hill, as they were both now ghosts. As he passed through the hill by the shortest path opposite the cabin, he found himself in the room with Mary, her ghost being able to pass out of the trunk. Mary smiles to see her brother once again. When he asked, "What are you doing here, Mary? Where are we?" her reply made him realize they were both dead. The parents find William dead in a rocky hollow, and later Mary in the trunk. William had to die for him to see Mary again. His greatest wish